When it comes to breaking the traditional Star Wars mold, doing something refreshing and new, Andor gets first prize every time. It worked on so many levels, felt so Star Warsy, and yet there were no Jedi, there were no Sith, no Skywalkers, the best acting we've ever seen in the franchise, great dialogue, and the list goes on and on. So why didn't the same thing work in the past for other Star Wars projects? Well, a new editorial puts forward the question, why did Andor work but not The Last Jedi? Now right off the bat, I'm not here trying to diss either project. If you love both, if you hate both, if you like one but not the other, that's fine. But I want to break down these comparisons. From the outset, The Last Jedi was in a sticky position from the word go. The sequel trilogy did not have a solid overarching plan. J.J. Abrams put Luke on an island, and Rian Johnson had to explain that. He had to work out what to do with these legacy characters. The stakes were higher, and the movie dared to do things that touched upon well-beloved and established concepts. So let's see what this article has to say. Andor and The Last Jedi broke Star Wars mold. Why did only one succeed? Both had the difficult task of following up a successful Star Wars movie, and both took risks by changing the Star Wars formula, but only one was successful in terms of fan reception. Despite both displaying creativity and shaking up traditional Star Wars, only one of them was lauded for its bravery, while the other, for the most part, was disliked. And sure, The Last Jedi made a lot of money, but it was very divisive in the fandom, with some fans even saying it ruined Star Wars for them. Now there is something to say about the different expectations for these two projects. Andor is there to explain Cassian's backstory, his history leading up to Rogue One, as well as characters like Mon Mothma, Saw Gerrera, and others. But in every respect, it's a prequel that does world building, expands on the politics of Star Wars, Empire vs Rebels, themes of freedom, consequence, and generally being an excellent precursor to Rogue One. Meanwhile, The Last Jedi was on the frontier of Star Wars, the next installment after the much anticipated The Force Awakens of the Skywalker saga. With all eyeballs on the fandom on it, it was meant to be the next big movie. As a sequel with so many legacy characters, it was meant to respect the old while also giving us the new. We really didn't see Luke in The Force Awakens until the last scene, so The Last Jedi was a glimmer of hope, finally giving us the next chapter in Luke's story. So there was so much pressure on The Last Jedi, but the Andor show was very different. A lot of fans didn't expect very much. We knew it was going to be a Rogue One prequel, but it blew us away. Tony Gilroy's writing, outstanding. And the place on the timeline it falls made it easy as well. Andor had the freedom to be what it wanted, but The Last Jedi was shackled between two J.J. Abrams movies, being the middle installment of the sequel trilogy of Star Wars. But in the case of Andor, despite being sandwiched between two trilogies, it managed to set itself apart. It didn't rely on cameos or anything of the sorts, and when they did appear, they were well warranted. They fit in the story. And going back to expectations, I really do think they matter. In the case of Andor, they were low. In the case of The Last Jedi, they were monumental. So when for some fans The Last Jedi disappointed, it felt like a bigger blow. In a sense, The Last Jedi had the entire weight of the franchise on its shoulders. And for many fans, those hopes were dashed. The killing of Snoke, the treatment of Luke, Rey, lightsabers, all of that kind of thing subverted expectations, but not in a good way, at least according to a big portion of the fandom. Andor did no such thing. It respects what comes after it in Rogue One and knows how to world build, get us invested in characters by staying in line with what you expect for the galaxy far, far away. I mean, sure, there were new concepts. Tony Gilroy did the breaking of the mold well, but in a very different way to Rian Johnson. Share your thoughts on this in the comments down below. Now, around the time of the Andor Season 1 finale, I asked you guys if you preferred The Mandalorian Season 1 or Andor Season 1. Well, today, we're going to broaden that question to the following. Out of all of the Star Wars live-action shows and seasons, which first season premiere was the best? I put it out to you guys in a poll, and the overwhelming majority of folks voted for The Mandalorian Season 1 Chapter 1. Season 2 of The Mandalorian came second, then Andor, Kenobi, and finally Book of Boba Fett. Now personally I would agree with this. While I believe that Andor was one of the best shows overall, The Mandalorian Season 1 premiere tops everything. The Grogu reveal was something that no one saw coming. The setup of the lone Mandalorian, being introduced to the post-return of the Jedi Galaxy, and something very reminiscent of an Underworld-style series. The bounty hunter, the space western, it just clicked. But that doesn't mean I don't think other premieres deserve credit too. The hype in the build-up to Season 2 was exceeded when Chapter 9 dropped. Fans were so excited, and oh boy, it delivered. It opens with the Gamorrean fight, Khor Goresh, Mando seeking other Mandalorians, Tatooine, Cobb Vanth, awesome ties to the Aftermath novels, and so on. So that was a very strong premiere too. Hopefully season 3 can open with a banger as well. And something I want to get your opinion on is the real meaning of the title of the show, The Mandalorian. Originally we all assumed it was about Din Djarin, but now things are changing. We know from the rumours and leaks that Bo-Katan is going to have a significant amount to do in this season. If the rumours are true about the mythosaur armour and her ruling Mandalore by the end of the season, then to an extent, from a certain point of view, Bo-Katan is also the Mandalorian. So the focus which has been on Din might now be passed on to other Mandos as well, so the Mandalorian encompasses all of them. The Mandalorian is kind of like the term the Jedi. It's collective. It refers to a people rather than one person. And this also ties into another theory that after the Mandalorian ends, whether it's in season 4 or 5, there's going to be a new spin-off that continues some of those stories. Maybe a Bo-Katan spin-off, a show that focuses on Mandalore after the restoration or something like that. But these character arcs and developments are what I'm most looking forward to in season 3, how things are going to be reconciled between the clans. And speaking of the tribe and the armourer, there is a dilemma we need to address. If Din Djarin is going to return and atone for his sins, what does that mean for Grogu? Grogu is recognised as a member of the group as well, and he's going to have his own helmet. Does that mean Grogu can never take it off as well? Now the reason I ask this is because just the act of going to the mines of Mandalore from Din Djarin's point of view is admitting he was wrong. It's admitting he will never do it again, and a return to orthodoxy, strict Mandalorian orthodoxy, a tribe that is seen as extremist, one that Bo-Katan hates, and other Mandalorians as well. But let me predict something right now. Din Djarin is not going to go through with it. I think meeting other Mandalorians, Christopher Lloyd's character, Bo-Katan again and others, is going to make him change his mind. This season is all about decision making, whether it's the path Din takes, Grogu's choices, those of the New Republic to be decisive, and so on. And with the restoration of Mandalore and the surviving clans, they've all got to work together and share common goals, and what this means for the tribe is that they have to start being more lenient if they want to be accepted by others. Are the armourer and Paz Vizsla willing to do that? Are they open to compromise? That's a big question at the heart of this season. Now going back to Grogu for just a second, there is always the chance he doesn't want to be a Mandalorian foundling. At the moment he's back with Din, things are stable for the time being, but leaving Luke was an emotional decision. It doesn't necessarily mean Grogu didn't want to be a Jedi, it just means he would have preferred to be with his father. Ahsoka reminded us of the risks of attachment, especially after what happened with Anakin. But what if Grogu changes his mind and says, you know what, I still want to be a Jedi, it's not too late. I mean, of course he loves his dad, there might be problems down the line with that attachment, but still, he might decide to go back, enter the Ahsoka show where someone like Ezra could be his mentor. What do you guys think? Share your thoughts on this in the comments down below. And so staying on the subject of Mando, in yesterday's video I spoke about Kestis and how he might come into live action. Whether it's in The Mandalorian Season 3, The Ahsoka Show Season 4, I do think eventually he's going to make that transition, but what about the other way round? What if Grogu appears in Jedi Survivor in a flashback? The upcoming sequel to Jedi Fallen Order has a sizable amount of hype and anticipation. Now while it is true that Cal and Grogu were not together during Order 66, it is possible the two trained alongside each other on Coruscant during their Padawan years. Jedi Fallen Order set the precedent for engaging, purposeful flashbacks, and the game famously had callbacks and references to other parts of the Star Wars universe, even one mention of Yaddle. So could we see Grogu training alongside the protagonist in a flashback to the Republic days during the prequels? And if you want to hear my other theories on the matter, then you might want to check out yesterday's video. And so now, my dear friends, a light-hearted tidbit for the Andor series. Star Wars fan theories are always circulating, but frequent franchise actor Sam Witwer has voiced support for one particular Death Star explosion theory. The theory comes from his recent role in the Andor show. The theory, as laid out by a Twitter user, says that Witwer's Stormtrooper cameo in Andor is inadvertently responsible for the eventual destruction of the first Death Star, as we see in A New Hope. Here is the logic behind it. In the Andor show, Witwer is a stormtrooper on Neamos who wrongly arrests Cassian due to suspicion that he was involved in an unrelated trooper chase. After Cassian gets arrested, he helps the prison revolution on Arkina 5, returns to his home planet, and officially joins up with the rebels. Sam Witwer has commented on many Star Wars theories in the past, so it's no surprise to anyone that he had a take on this theory. From a certain point of view, there's a lot of truth to it, if you want to be pedantic, because one event led to another. Cassian's arrest and his experience on Neamos, but more so Narkina Narkina 5 put him on the path to becoming a rebel hero, as well as Nemik's manifesto and the death of his mother. In a way, the Death Star plans would have never been stolen if it wasn't for that Shore Trooper, even if Cassian never made it past Scarif. What he and Jyn Erso did saved the rebellion. Did Witwer Stormtrooper put things into motion? Well, kind of, but not deliberately. But with that said, guys, share your thoughts in the comments down below. What did you make of everything we spoke about, the Mandalorian theories, and this little tidbit? If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. May the Force be with you always.